y'all know about the singer slash songwriter who wrote over and who sold 90 million records worldwide and won several country song awards and Grammys? Well, let me tell you, it was Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was an amazing artist who touched the lives of many, and I, who have been a fan of Johnny Cash for several years and have done a lot of research in the past couple months about him, am going to tell you a little bit about his education, his early career slash early life kind of thing, and his falling outs with music, and then his comeback. So, it's gonna be great. So he was born February 26, 1932. His parents named him J.R. Cash, which the J.R. stood for nothing. They just didn't know what to name him, so they named him J.R. just as initials, which I think is pretty interesting. His parents were a part of the New Deal programs, and they had a farm in Dice Colony, Arkansas. Unfortunately, that farm had a big flood, and it kind of devastated their farm, but they were able to rebuild the farm and it was fine. But later in his life, he actually made a song called 5 Feet and Rising, which he says is based off of that event that he remembered. But music was kind of always part of Johnny Cash's life, even from a young age. Actually, it was part of his whole family's life. They had a battery-operated radio that he would listen to music on all the time. The whole family would sing along and, enjoy music together. Unfortunately, though, when he got a little older, his eldest brother, died in a table saw accident. And he was he looked up to this brother quite a bit. This brother was kind of going to be like the music one of the family. He was very invested in music. He was very, very active. But the table saw accident kind of sparked Johnny Cash's music, and also, as he later confessed, gave him that dark edge to his music that he had, that a lot of people enjoyed. He graduated high school and then immediately joined the Air Force as a radio operator. So he didn't really have any college experience, but he did have the Air Force. According to the book The Man in Song, Johnny Cash, when he was in the Air Force, started his music career there. He enlisted 1 week before the Korean War. So he was stationed in Texas for a little while, where he met Vivian, his later-to-be wife, and then they moved him to Germany. In Germany, he bought his first guitar and actually learned to play the guitar in Germany. So then he started writing his own songs, and which is pretty cool. He wrote a lot of good songs like Cry, Cry, Cry. That was kind of the base on the song he wrote while stationed in Germany. But he was honorably discharged in 1954 and then went back to Texas, where he married Vivian. And he met Luther Perkins and Marshall Grant, who they started a band together. And while, after they kind of got to their music part, they auditioned for Sun's record by Sam Phillips. And they presented he presented his own music later, but to audition, he kind of sang songs that were already kind of popular. I think it was 2 gospel songs and 1 country song that was really popular at the time. And Sam Phillips liked their sound, but didn't think it was very original. So Sam Phillips told Johnny Cash, if you go home right now and you come up with something that's unique and interesting that complements your sound, I'll give you a chance. So Johnny Cash went home that night and looked at his book of songs he wrote while he was stationed in Germany and picked a couple, and then the next day they showed him to Sam Phillips and he loved it. He thought it was super unique, super cool, so he signed them on his record, and that was the beginning of his record career. Unfortunately, unfortunately, once they took off and Johnny Cash started doing a lot of tours and he wasn't really home a whole lot, he started to struggle with being on stage and being on this, kind of crazy lifestyle. He started to take amphetamines and barbiturates. The amphetamines were to get him excited and to get him all hyped up, and the other ones were to bring him back down from the high. He got very much hooked on these, and it started to take a toll on his mental health. While going through all this addiction, he wrote Cocaine Blues, which warned listeners of the perils of drug addiction. This is a very famous song, and a lot of people kind of attributed to it the fact that he was doing what he was singing about. He was then arrested for public drunkenness in Lafayette, Georgia, and they quoted that the once robust giant of a man had succumbed to his demons and was wasting away right before everyone. His marriage was broken up, and he just was falling apart, and he decided to go to Nick Jack Cave, which is it was like an American Indian kind of museum, not really a museum, but it was like a place where you could go and you could look for ancient artifacts, not ancient, but artifacts about Native Americans, because a lot of them were slaughtered there by Andrew Jackson. So he went there, he frequented this cave quite a bit, and it was like one of his favorite places to go to just kind of look for stuff, and he went there with the intentions of taking his own life. But, as he says, he had a divine intervention where God reached down and told him that he was going to be greater than this and there were better times coming. And he crawled out of the cave on all fours and went home, and he started to really take the chance to get better. Of course, drug addiction was not an easy fix for him. He struggled with it for many years and had a relapse a couple times. But while all of this was happening, he met June Carter. And June Carter, he sang several songs with June Carter, and they, started to fall in love. And she really did help him get back and get help, and he got clean for a very long time. But his music career started to fall back again, and he started to use drugs again. This was kind of a vicious cycle for Johnny Cash. But a bunch of people decided to make the film Cash, and a bunch of other films and short movies that were about him started to spark his career back up. He then became a millionaire, and he supported, with his money, he used it and supported different mental health associations, a home for autistic children, refugees for battered women, the U.S. Cancer Society, and he endowed a research burn center of memory of his former guitarist, Luther Perkins. He talked about prison reforms a lot. Of course, he went and sang at prisons a lot, and he was very big on prison reforms. But he sold 1.3 million copies of his book, Man in Black, which was a very popular book at the time. It's also very good. But Johnny Cash was an amazing musician and songwriter, where all his life experience turned him into the man he was. Unfortunately, June Carter, his wife of 35 years, died from complications following heart surgery. 4 months later, he died, later due to respiratory failure after a long struggle with diabetes. But he's remembered as winning 11 Grammys and he touched many people's hearts.